So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Today, I'm here to share with you details of a really amazing interview which I listened to. And I think it's so important what this guy is saying that I wanted to share the details with you. If you want to listen to it in full, it is an interview on Mel Robbins' podcast, dated the 18th of April. And she is talking to Dr. Tal Ben Shahar about happiness. Yeah. So quite a lot of what I'm going to talk about today comes directly from that interview. Some of it's just me sprinkling in a bit of Tanya Swarbrick goodness over the top of it to uplift and bring. This is going to sound, oh, what an odd reason why I stuck there. I was about to say to bring hope, but it's just to uplift you. The thing is, right, humans are hardwired to pursue happiness, but not to actually be happy. Yeah. I know, it's bonkers. Our brains were put together like 200,000 years ago. And so much hard wiring is done through genetics and the actual formation of the brain when we're growing in utero and all that kind of stuff. Let me explain this. It's the pursuit of happiness or the pursuit of goals that keeps us going, that keeps us happy. Yeah. But we're not hardwired to be happy all the time, because if we were, we would never worry about how we're going to raise our kids, how we are going to perform well in our jobs, how we are going to improve our lives. Yeah. And that's where the pursuit of happiness is what we're hardwired for, but not to actually be happy. The thing is that with ever-changing goals, yeah, because we're never actually hardwired to be happy. We never truly find happiness unless it's in a moment. Come back to that in a minute. Actually, no, I'm not going to come back to that in a minute. I'm going to explain it now. The thing is, right, that when we set a goal, the actual achievement of that goal, the actual attaining, that number one in the world for pole vaulting or whatever it is, that achievement doesn't make you happy. It's the training, it's the traveling the world, it's the doing the thing that makes you happy. Once you've won the medal, that fades out of your mind really fast. Ask any athlete, they will confirm that. The pursuit of happiness, however, comes into our lives when we're talking about growth, learning, personal development, when we're talking about and doing. Right? Three of my favorite things that that keep me happy are gardening. When things grow in my garden, just watching stuff growing in my garden. But it's not the individual plant's achievement of getting to full size that makes me happy. It's the growing, it's the movement, however slow, within my garden. Also cleaning. Yeah. Now, I love cleaning windows. My hands, however, do not love cleaning windows. So I have a window cleaner and he does the outsides, and quite often he does the insides as well, but he will always do the outsides because I love looking out of clean windows. Also, there's something in my head, right, about clean floors. Clean floors make me happy. But the thing is with a clean floor is it only takes one streak of muddy footprints from him in there and the floor is no longer clean. But the fact that there's muddy footprints on the floor doesn't make me unhappy. I simply look forward to when my cleaner is coming next to clean the floors. creating and creation is also one of those things that really sparks happiness in people. But just as an example, right? Imagine this, right? An artist is happy when they're creating. Yeah. They don't stop when a piece is completed. They start another one, because it's not the completion of a task that actually creates the happiness. It's the act of creation itself. Yeah. Of having an end goal. And Dr. Tal Ben Shahar, when he was talking with Mel Robbins in her podcast, I'm going to plug it a few times during this, in her podcast on the 18th of April 24, he talks about the parts of life that all add up to a feeling of wholeness, a feeling of well-being, and feeling happier. Happier. Not happy, happier. Because when you're aiming to just be happier than you were yesterday, you can continue getting happier and happier and happier and happier. There doesn't have to be an end game to this. So these constituent parts of wholeness are, the acronym is SPIRE, S-P-I-R-E. And that's S for spiritual. That's the meaning in your life, the purpose in your life. The P is for physical, having a happy, healthy body. Somatic exercises, stretching, moving, all of those things, they'll put a smile on your face. I've done it in state changing exercises with my business clients. Literally just, they spend all their days virtually motionless at their desk, just tippy tapping on a keyboard, whereas getting up out of their chair and bouncing to some really fun music can put a smile on their face and be uplifting. I, intellectual, that's the learning, the growing, the expanding yourself. R stands for relationships. That's a little bit more confusing for a lot of people. Oh, excuse me. I think I might sneeze in a minute. The relationships part is interconnection. It's the time you spend with people that you care about. It's that interconnection within the relationships. It's not just whether or not you've got a husband or a boyfriend or a boss or a subordinate. Yeah. It's not as simple as attaining the relationship. It's the interconnection and the playfulness that goes on within that relationship. And finally, in that SPIRE, that S-P-I-R-E, is emotional. And that is simply the allowance, the allowing and embracing all emotions. It's not just about, being happy. Emotional well-being is the allowance of all of the emotions, allowing yourself to be sad, allowing yourself to be upset, allowing yourself to be angry. Yeah. I've said this before, but there's a mile of difference between angry and aggressive. Yeah. So don't get me confused. The thing is that goals matter. Yeah. Having goals matter, having aims matter. But it's not the actual goal, but the existence of the goal, the journey towards the goal that gives you direction and wholeness and purpose. Lack of purpose or lack of direction, often for our meaning-making machines in our heads, yeah, the old brain box. This lack of purpose creates uncertainty, overthinking, procrastination. And the way that Dr. Tal Ben Shahar talks about these 5 areas and how to improve them is with another acronym. He calls them MVIs, minimum viable intervention. And an MVI, this intervention, this tiny little thing, right, is just to get you 1% closer, because those small changes make a big difference in your progression towards the goal. Yeah, we're not talking about the achievement of the goal here. Yeah, because we all know that, you know, some goals, yeah, are achieved in lots and lots of little bits. So these MVIs, this minimum viable intervention, are the little bits that you do to improve each of those 5 areas: the spiritual, physical, intellectual, relationships, and emotional. So let's look at an example of an MVI for each of those 5 areas. Spiritual. Okay, let's start with the spiritual one. For this, I'm going to give an example that's close to my heart. Yeah, 1 minute, start. 1 minute of conscious breath, the aim of which is to be present in the moment. Yeah? Some people are going to call this meditation, but I'm only talking about 1 minute, yeah, or even 30 seconds, or even just 1 breath. Breathing in slowly and purposefully through your nose, allowing your body and allowing your mind to fully feel your lungs expand, your diaphragm go down. And then through that point of release, when you allow that air to come back out again, even if you only do 1 breath and you're fully present in that 1 breath, that's 1% added. Yeah, that's your 1% closer, your MVI, to improve the spiritual side of your life. The next one, physical. Now, there's loads of research out there at the moment, and to be honest with you, there's so much research, it's beginning to get on my wick a bit, because it keeps changing and changing and changing. But you know, some people will say, oh, 7 minutes of high interval training, hit high intensity interval training. Sorry, I forget what all these acronyms mean, you know. I just know them as HIT, right? So some people will tell you that 7 minutes once a day is enough. Some people will tell you that 15 minutes is the happy thing. But there are other people who will actually tell you that a 45-second burst of something like stair climbing, yeah, running up the stairs. Mind you, it take a lot less than 45 seconds to run upstairs in most homes. But if you're at the office, you might have, you know, enough flights to run up and down for 45 seconds. Doesn't have to be huge. But if you can include 3 45-second bursts of energy, yeah, in your day, that is said by another one of these researchers to be the same as, you know, a 45-minute workout in the gym where you do the, you know, the cardio bit and then you do the weight training bit. Yeah, it's not obviously not going to give you the same benefits as strength training, but it will give you the same benefits as a HIIT workout or your cardio. But as you know, I am not a physical health coach. I almost kind of went there once back in my past. Oh, that was a long time ago. Let's not go back there for now. The next one, intellectual. To add 1% to your intellectual goals, or to your intellectual wholeness, your intellectual well-being, you could maybe listen to a podcast, like the podcast that I listened to that's inspired this little talk with you today. I'm looking down again so I get the date right. 18th of April, 2024, Mel Robbins interviewed Dr. Tal Ben Shahar, and probably 80% of what I'm talking about today comes directly from that interview. So you could listen to a podcast. You could think of a question to ask a friend or an elderly person in order to start a conversation. Yeah. Or you could literally make the effort, like I do. I mean, I know it's me being Little Miss Perfect again, but quite often, if I'm not doing something with my computer that involves other people, when my neighbours get home, I'll go to the door, I'll let the dog out, he goes to greet them, they have a fuss through the gate, I go, oh, how you doing, everything all right? And sometimes I'll go to the fence and we have a bit of a chat while they're fussing the dog. But one of the things that Dr. Tal Ben Shahar mentions in this podcast with Mel Robbins is curiousness, keeping your brain curious. And so long as you genuinely want to know the answer, asking someone how their day went and paying attention to that answer can trigger curiousness. So, next one, relationships. The best suggestion for improving your relationship with anybody is to hug them, in my opinion. Again, there is research out there that says that a 7-second hug is more beneficial to your physical, to your mental, to your overall well-being than just about any other kind of human contact. But you can also improve relationships by that tiny little bit, by that 1%, by sending a thoughtful text. Not just how you're doing, but I just remembered that you were doing something today. How did that go? Yeah. If you're talking to someone, listen to them. In this amazing age of distraction, where we've got computers and phones and tablets and TVs, we are living in an age that people 100 years ago wouldn't even have the first idea how to walk around in. Yeah. 100 years ago, there was no such thing as a hot shower. So can you imagine how someone who'd lived 100 years ago walking into a modern home with televisions, computers, hot water coming out of a tap in multiple rooms in the house, toilets that flush, so many things that we allow ourselves to become distracted with are things that would inspire awe and wonder in somebody who lived 100 years ago. Again, as I mentioned before, being fully present in the present moment with another person can make a massive difference to your relationship with them. So next time you're having dinner with your boyfriend, or you're out with the family, how about asking everybody to turn their phones off? Yeah. There's going to be a young mum who's going to say, I can't turn my phone off in case the babysitter rings up. Yeah. Ask them anyway. The most amazing example it might be just because I listened to it recently, but Dr. Tal in that interview talks about how distraction prevents you from being involved in any one thing effectively. And the way he describes it as, first of all, imagine your favorite song playing. You're remembering the words, you're remembering the sound of the break in the middle. Yeah. Now think of your second favorite song, or just another song that you like a lot. Yeah. Now imagine them playing at the same time. Yeah. Your two favorite songs suddenly become a cacophony of noise. You won't hear either. You won't enjoy either of those things because you're distracted from one by the other, if you follow me. Emotions. Now, I talk a lot about emotions because what I aim to do with people pleasers is enable them to get past emotions that keep them stuck in order to find freedom beyond those limiting beliefs. The things that I go for quite often are gratitude exercises, focusing on writing a list in a journal. Yeah. One of the journal exercises that Dr. Tal suggests is to journal on something that hurts you emotionally. Yeah? Don't just write about the good stuff. Don't just write a diary entry in your journal. Write about something that hurts. Because, again, research proves that thinking about things that hurt make it get worse. Make that hurt, that emotional hurt, increase. But writing or talking about things that hurt you emotionally actually aids the management and processing of that thing that hurt. So this MVI experiment, yeah, enables you to do stuff rather than internalizing whether or not a thing is, in quotes, good enough to do. Doing, like, writing is a doing thing, yeah, makes a lot more difference to the things that you're thinking about than keeping it all inside your head, overanalyzing, picking your life apart, because all of that is really destructive. How are we doing for time? Yeah, we've got enough time. Because there was some more amazing things that he talked about in this interview. Yeah, so this is my best bits selection from Mel Robbins' podcast dated 18th of April 24, where she interviews Dr. Tal Ben Shahar. The next bit he talked about was anti-fragile. I know, when he first said anti-fragile or anti-fragility, I was like, oh my God, I need to know what this is. But he said, in order to understand it, you need to first understand what resilience is. Now, resilience is an engineering term. It means that after pressure or weight or impact has been applied to something, it has the property of being able to bounce back. Yeah. So like a big rubber pad. Yeah. If you take that as an example, if you apply a weight to the middle of it, when you take that weight off, it will slowly reform and return back to its original shape. Another example for resilience is like a bouncy ball. Yeah. When you drop a ball, it bounces. But each bounce of a ball becomes smaller and smaller because of air resistance, yeah, the energy that's lost in the impact on the ground. But in theory, that bounce is also increased by the effect of gravity on the weight of the ball. Are you with me so far? If you're not, put something in the comments and I'll try and explain it better. No? Okay. So if that's resilience, that ability to bounce back, what's anti-fragile? He describes anti-fragile as resilience 2.0. Yeah. The result of anti-fragility is that after pressure or stress is applied to something, it becomes stronger. So in that simple example, if we could make a bouncy ball out of something that was anti-fragile, or had this property of anti-fragility. When we dropped it, each time it bounced, it would bounce higher. Yeah? Now, that probably sounds a bit mentally mixed up. You know, how could that happen? But there are things already on this planet that have this anti-fragile property. And one of them is the body that you're in. Yeah. Our human meat suits are anti-fragile. Because when you put pressure and stress or tension on our muscles and do it repeatedly, they become stronger. Yeah. I'm going to come back to this in a minute. But the way that Dr. Tull talks about how you can create this anti-fragility in yourself mentally as well as physically, because it's already built into your body physically, is using the 3 R's of reducing resistance, because resistance is opposite to resilience. And these 3 R's, I'm not going to go into huge amounts of detail, but I am going to give you a place to go to figure this out, right? The 3 R's are reminders, repetition, and rituals, right? And I'm not going to go into detail because all of what he said is about habit stacking, and you will find habit stacking in this book. Habit stacking is explained really well in Atomic Habits, a book by James Clear. If you do not have this book, go out and buy this book. And while you're out buying books, actually, buy Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar's book called Happier. I've actually gone one extra because I am always a little bit extra. I've bought the Happier book, and I've also bought Even Happier. This is a really brilliant concept. Is just brilliant. This is like a journaling exercise book, right? But there is one for each week of a year. And my intention is every Sunday, I'm going to do the exercise for that week, starting this Sunday. So this Sunday's exercise is about being grateful, which is brilliant. There's a bit to read. And then there's a couple of exercises, and then there's how to build a daily gratitude list. And that's it. That's literally it for the week. Week 2 is about rituals, right? So those are my book recommendations stacked up for this week as well. I'll say it again. We have Atomic Habits by James Clear and the book Happier by Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, PhD, and the little sub-book Even Happier, which goes along with it. So what I do want to fit in, because we're now, butting up against time now, what I really wanted to include, though, in this little talk was what I alluded to at the beginning. It's about adding hope, about creating content for you that is uplifting. And this is the bit that really turned my attention on when Mel Robbins and Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar started talking about this. He's a positive psychologist. He taught positive psychology at Harvard. He taught positive psychology at Harvard. And he started this section of the interview by saying, right, everybody's heard of PTSD, right? Everybody? Have you all heard of PTSD? Yeah? You must have been living under a rock if you haven't. But how many of you have heard of the acronym PTG? I'm about to blow your mind, right? I am literally about to blow your mind. PTG is post-traumatic growth. Yeah? Research says that just knowing that there is a thing called PTG, or post-traumatic growth, adds a magical ingredient called hope to those people who have PTSD. Right? Let me explain why. The difference between sadness and depression is that depression is sadness without hope. Yeah? Let me say that again. The difference between sadness and depression is that depression is sadness without hope. As soon as you add hope to a state of depression, you're uplifted to a state of sadness because you know that this too will pass. And it's adding hope. This is my mission, yeah? To uplift people, to add hope, because that's what will make us whole. Individually, collectively, giving each other hope is where the magic happens. Thank you so much for listening to me. If you have any questions, I can hang on for a couple of minutes. If you've got any questions, type them in the chat right now. Got a few people watching. If you have any questions. Okay, there's one. Yes, this entire talk was inspired by a little over an hour long podcast where Mel Robbins, in the Mel Robbins podcast, interviews Dr. Tal Ben Shahar. And that's TALBEN hyphen SHAHAR. And it's her, it's Mel Robbins' podcast on the 18th of April. It's quite a recent one, 18th of April 2024, for those of you out in the future. Do you have any other questions? No? Okay. In that case, I will just say, if you have any questions when you're watching this, if you're not listening to this live or watching this live, if you have any questions, just drop them in the comments wherever you are listening to this, and feel free to message me. It's been lovely sharing some time with you. I need to get off now, so I will catch you all another day. Bye for now.